What's going on, everyone? Future Terminus here with a little update. I actually recorded episode 2 to 4 already. But starting with episode 5, we're gonna have no virtual background because I noticed there was a slight delay in how the video played in comparison to the audio. I think the problem lies with the video because of the virtual background. So we're gonna try that out. So you're gonna see my beautiful, beautiful scuffed room right here with the Ethernet cable over here and my books over here. You can ask me questions about that if you're really curious about that. You can see some of the titles here already, some of my favorites. Other than that, I did change the mic setup, as you might be able to tell. Before this, I had like a desk mic stand, and it worked pretty well for just doing normal casual online chatting and voice chat, but I do believe that it might be better for when I hit the desk or something to not have a stand on the desk. So we're going to try that out as well. Yeah, but other than that, starting with episode 5, you're going to see this. We're going to just go along and see which method works best. Also, you can let me know what kind of format you would enjoy the most on YouTube. At the moment, I'm thinking I actually edit the episodes down to roughly 10 to 12 minutes. So with like spaces in between where I don't show it, and having it slightly obscured so copyright doesn't bust my ass. But we can do it with a timer variation as well on YouTube. I'm definitely gonna try to keep it with a picture-in-picture in the description down below using Pixeldrain or whatever. Just one thing to note: if you are looking at Pixeldrain and it says, well, you can't watch the stream, you need to download it to see it. That is because I don't have a Pixeldrain Pro account yet. So if you guys want to see it, you only have to make a Pixeldrain account. It's completely free. Like you just have to register and everything. Other than that, you can of course always download the video. I will try to make the sizes of the video less so you can actually download it faster. I know not everybody has top internet speed. I used to be the same way just a short while ago. That was one of the main reasons why I didn't start any YouTube content yet. And last but not least, my dumbass misread Fern's name in the beginning of episode 1 and never bothered to more closely look at it again. So you're gonna have to live with me just mispronouncing Fern as friend for the first 4 episodes of the show. So that's just how it is right now. But I'll just wanted to let you know that I actually did notice, and it does make sense with the German naming scheme and everything. I'm probably going to mention that in episode 5 then. Other than that, I do hope you enjoyed the video. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Terminus, and this is episode 2 of Frieren. Or Frieren, if you don't want to be German. Yeah, episode 2. I did want to record episode 1 at first because just trying to figure out what I'm going to do with the recordings and everything and how to get it done, experimenting in the beginning. We have a little bit of a pre-recording discussion to do, and then I'd say we watch the episode and see what's going to happen. And of course, right as I'm about to start the recording, there's a plane flying in the air, but it is what it is. I hope it's not too noticeable on the audio track. So let's talk about something. I would say I would like to analyze the OP maybe next episode or next recording, depending on if I'm going to do 1 episode or 2 this recording. I'm definitely going to do it next episode because I've looked a little bit more into what the ED could mean for our general meaning of the show and all of that, I looked a little bit into the flower symbolism of it, and I would really love to kind of talk about it. The main flower I have identified here, if I'm gonna kind of just pull up the episode a little bit and play it for a second without sound. We're gonna, I'm gonna ignore that. I didn't see anything. Yeah. Maybe I should pull up the old Frieren episode and then get this one. Alright, so we're gonna pull up episode 1 for this one. And make the window a little bit smaller. You guys are not gonna see this. I'm gonna just edit this in a way as to just start with the normal with the episode when I'm gonna start analyzing it. So the first shot of the episode, I wanted to talk about this. Frieren kind of opens her eyes to the world. I would say that is the meaning of that. It's a beautiful painting, by the way, a beautiful drawing. It's clearly Frieren's eyes, made out of flowers, I would assume, and she is observing a squirrel going, well, kind of making its way across a branch. I would say, in terms of symbolism, that could represent her becoming more aware of life outside of her own, right? The life of beings around her, maybe also the life of beings which have a shorter lifespan. A lot of humans do like to observe animals and nature in general, and often it is the case that we do observe beings for which the scope of their lifespan, their world, their environment is a lot smaller than our own. But we still find it very fascinating, and observing their life, observing what they do on a daily routine is something very fascinating for us personally. At least I'm talking about myself here, and I know a lot of people I've talked to feel similarly. The interesting thing here is that the squirrel drops the acorn or nut it's been holding, and it falls to the ground and grows into a flower. And that flower is kind of the flower I want to focus on for this first part of the ED analysis. I think the ED has a lot of very intricate content. There is a plethora of flowers that the ED is featuring, and I don't think we can go into detail about every flower. And also, it'd be kind of boring and like long-winded. This video would be like 5 hours. I don't think you'd enjoy that. Unless... Just kidding. Yeah. The flower... I've kind of looked at the flower and searched around for blue flowers that kind of match the general look of it. And I think the one I found that might be the most fitting and kind of the one that makes the most sense, in my opinion, is the blue poppies. The blue poppies seem to have various meanings in mythology, but one of the main meanings seems to be that of peace and tranquility on the one hand, which kind of connects to our Age of Peace, which we started out with the first episode. The Heroes Party won the huge struggle and fight against the forces of evil and ushered in a new age of peace and prosperity. But also, the flower seems to symbolize sadness and melancholy, which we have felt a lot throughout the first episode already. Like remembering Frieren realizing her friends are getting older, realizing she might have wanted to know them closer than she already has. She already had a very close connection to them, had a journey of 10 years with them. But in the grand in the grand scope of her life, she certainly wished that it was more, because for her, 10 years is very little time to know somebody. That is a thing I do believe influences us a lot in life. Just the amount of time we do have, or the amount of time we do think that we have. It defines a lot how we interact with people on a daily level, right? If I know I only have a year to spend with somebody, I will do a lot more with them. I will interact a lot more with them. I will pay a lot more attention and have a lot more well, how do you say that? The weight of every single situation that I am in and every interaction I have with that person becomes a lot larger if I know I have less time with them, especially if they're close to me. And what Frieren has been doing so far, I think, is just, since she grew up in a culture that lives very long, that doesn't pay that much attention to months and maybe even years, but more decades and centuries. The way she might have built relationships might have been very slowly, right? And each individual moment didn't mean as much, or at least initially, she didn't put as much weight on each and every moment that she spent with people. In comparison to maybe a normal human being or a dwarf in this world who live less, who have less of a lifetime to spend, right? And so decades are something bigger, and years are something bigger, and even months are something bigger. So each moment is more valuable to them, at least initially. And what she might be realizing now is that this way she's been looking at life might have been something that changed for her now, because people that she was very close to, that she liked a lot, have been growing old and dying, and she wasn't able to spend more time with them, which changes your perspective on each individual moment you spent with them. Now, coming back to the flowers, aside from the symbolism of sadness and melancholy, which we have been feeling throughout the first episode, there's also some cultures who seem to put these flowers out in honor of the memory of lost ones, and they seem to also represent remembrance in that context. So I think that is a very strong connection that we have here between the blue poppies, and which is literally the first flower that we see growing and then being swallowed by the dragon in this episode. In a romantic context, there seems to also be a connection with the blue poppy, representing more of a deep and pure love. I don't know if this is going to come up, or if this is just something that the author did not intend or choose to not put into the work, because we do not know if Frieren was romantically interested in anybody so far. There certainly seem to have been a lot of friendship and friendly connections between her and her party, but so far I haven't gotten any vibes between her and Himmel that suggested she was romantically interested. Then again, she is a character that is very reserved, outwardly not very expressive, so there could be something that we didn't realize, or maybe she herself didn't even realize at the time. So I'm curious to see if this is going to come up later, or if this is a part of the general symbolism of the blue poppies that was put aside. Now then again, it could be a different flower. I mean, it looks closest to the blue poppy as far as I could tell from my little research that I did, but it could be a different flower too. It fits very well though with the themes. Going on, what else do I have in my notes? Well, I mean, Chinese culture seems to connect the the blue poppies with death and put them out at funerals as well. There's some part of that mythology that suggests the blue poppies help the deceased, the souls of the deceased, to find their way in the afterlife. And apparently in Buddhism, which is also very, very established in Japanese culture, I think Japanese, aside from Shintoism, also has a big emphasis on Buddhism these days. In Tibetan Buddhism, it seems to be that the flower is sacred and is connected to enlightenment, and that might suggest something for our journey that we're gonna go on throughout the series, but might also just be an interesting little tidbit or trivia that doesn't have any meaning in the grand scheme of things. Now, how does that connect to the dragon eating the flower? I can't quite say. I know that in Eastern mythology, dragons are connected to great power and seem to have kind of a deity like a deity position in the mythology. There seems to be connotations of giving people strength and courage in challenging times. And dragons in Eastern mythology are also connected to wisdom. So in that sense, gaining wisdom out of remembrance could be a theme that's being represented here. Though I don't quite know what the eating part of that means. It could be a general theme of just the circle of life, where the nut falls to the tree, there's a flower that grows out of it, the flower is getting eaten by some kind of animal or higher being, and provides nutrients to the being. But I'm sure there's a lot of other symbolism that we could gain out of this, be it intended by the author or not. Another thing I wanted to talk about that I have noticed myself is, aside from the obvious very prominent featuring of not just flowers but also animals, and with that life in general in this ED, is that we do have around the end of the ED, we do also have this idea, like we have another dragon here that is kind of going in a circle around the flowers, if you see that. Wait a second, we do have her staff, which probably is central to the symbolism in this show. And here we have the dragon, and it kind of builds a circle moving around the flowers. In a sense, generally, we could go back to the circle of life theme that has been prominent throughout the ED. The dragon itself kind of looks a little bit like Ouroboros, like the snake eating its own tail. And flowers are a very strong symbolism for life and growth and development. So this is, in my opinion, a good way to look at the symbolism, but I do suspect that there might be more to it again. We also had other trees and flowers in here. For example, the morning willow, which when Frieren goes on this journey at the end of the ED, we do see that she's walking through the woods, and we have like some beautiful landscapes. By the way, also what we just saw, we do see her and 𝐏𝐢𝐏 stepping in different directions, and 𝐏𝐏𝐏 seems to therefore kind of play a slightly more important role than her other companions, I would say. But that could be connected to all kinds of elements here, the Morning Willow. Obviously, that makes sense to me. Mourning is a theme that has been in this show from minute one. Mourning the end of a journey together, mourning the end of an age, even if the age wasn't maybe not the most peaceful or the most prosperous one. Mourning friends passing or friends parting ways, and then mourning their death. Mourning what was lost, mourning that you maybe could have connected to them more over time. This ED is just chock full of symbolism. I love this shot, by the way, with the yellow flowers, and she's walking through them, kind of like a mantle being over her, like a thick underbrush where she's coming out of. The yellow color shines in the sun. That is very beautiful in this one, with the reflection on the water surface. Could also be in some way her reflecting on her life, her reflecting on her journey, or her going on a journey of reflection. So and the cool atmosphere of the shot also lends itself to this melancholic, kind of reflective feeling when you're deep in your thoughts and you're thinking about the past, you're thinking about what has been, you're trying to process what happened. This is mostly it for me for this episode. I think I'm gonna look at the again and again. Every few recordings I might just go down a rabbit hole, look for flowers and their meanings. There's so many flowers in there, and I'm sure there's a couple of shots where I can still glimpse some of what the interaction between Frieren and her former party, or maybe even the new characters, gives away and foreshadows for our journey on this season of Frieren. I'm gonna pick out a flower every once in a while, and I'm gonna just look if I can find anything on it. Other than that, like I said, I find the yellow flowers very interesting. What I also find interesting, if I can find it here, is that towards the end of the OP, we get into a situation, we get into a shot where the flowers that build on the screen make up Frieren's face, which is very interesting. I wonder if any of these flowers that represent her face in this particular shot would maybe symbolize something special, something beyond what we've been looking into here. I can't find a shot right now, but it's not that important. I'm pretty sure you can look it up. What do I expect in this episode? This episode is probably focused on our new character. I don't know if I have her name. I think she's called Frieren, but I'm not quite sure. What I'm wondering about in relation to her is, first of all, what was her past? Obviously, she was an orphan, so her parents died. She might have been in an area of conflict, might have been in some misery before she got picked up by what's his name? 𝐏𝐢𝐏. And what I'm also wondering is how old she is, because she seems very like exceptionally intelligent for how she looks. Obviously, in anime, like I said, it's always hard to tell, but she looks like she seems exceptionally intelligent, or at least smart. And then I am very curious how Frieren does connect to her, because we already seen one point of connection, which is Frieren noticing that the notion of how she expressed that she doesn't mind magic. I think she expressed it in this way, or like she likes it a little, right? Like kind of like a maybe response, but the way she said that seemed to have struck a chord with Frieren, and she seemed to kind of relate to her in that particular moment. So that is the first point of connection we have, the first point where she can develop some kind of closeness and emotion towards this new character that got introduced, that she's supposed to teach how to do magic. I am assuming that 𝐸𝐸𝐲 probably has the plan to make Frieren relate to her and to starting to like her, and then take her up as an apprentice anyway, just by seeing how talented she is, and then understanding that maybe even though there's still a risk that she dies on the journey, she's capable enough to take her on the journey and keep teaching her. Or maybe, who knows, maybe we stay with 𝐸𝐸𝐲 and the whole season is gonna be in that general area. We will have to see. Anything else? There's still like the question of if the OP fits. I'll probably say a few words about the OP while we're watching it, because I'm just gonna watch it every episode probably. Maybe not on the episode, the second episode of a recording, if I ever do 2 episodes in a row. But I do. So far, I really like the OP. I think it's compared to Idol, it's very toned down, so it fits in that regard. It's a little bit chipper, and it feels like it has its low, cool tone, but always goes a little bit into the positive with its general, with its general sound, with its general tone and expression of words, if you can follow me. So it definitely feels like, in comparison to what we've been experiencing on an emotional level in episode 1, it has been a little bit more upbeat than what the episode was. But this could be intentional, to be honest. It could be the framing of a show that is a lot about reflection and remembrance, but the moral of the story, or the conclusion of what we're working towards, might be to gain positive things from that, right? Life goes on. The seed drops from the old tree, and out of it grows something new. And that's how I would like to see it for the moment. If that changes, if that has any, if there's any additional points that come, will highly depend on how the episode goes and what themes we're going to deal with. With that being said, I think I've talked long enough. It was like almost an entire anime episode of just talking about what we've seen and what we could be expecting. I'll have my notes here. I'm gonna keep writing them down, and I do believe, just have a look, I think we've got everything set up so far. Everything is recording nicely as far as I can tell, and with that I am just gonna start the second episode. Give me a second. I could open it here. Honestly, I don't know how to do that yet. By the way, shout out to Bitchute for giving me, Pink, my man, for giving me a lot of advice on what I could be doing with recording and how to properly edit it together, because there's a couple of tricks that you only find out after a while, that you just have to figure out for yourself. or you have to ask somebody who is a little bit more experienced, who knows a little bit more about how to properly do that. Let me just get the cam down a couple of yeah, I think that's good. Tell me if the lighting is good, if the sound is good. I'm probably gonna edit it post just to see that the levels of the anime doesn't go too low, but also that my voice is still being heard properly while we are watching this. With that being said, I'm ready to jump into the episode, and we're gonna do this in 3, 2, 1, bam. And we have that blue hue. She's opening her eyes, which, for me, clear symbolism of just becoming more aware of the things around her, aside from spells. So we have her isolated in a space, right? With rain coming down, which is giving this whole thing a very cold mood. I'm wondering who this guy is, but he seems to be kind of like a Himmel stand-in. So maybe there's gonna be parallels between Frieren and Frieren. And this guy is gonna be the Himmel stand-in. And through that, Frieren might start to realize more what her relationship was with Himmel and with the party. Another character who might be added. This is a bad guy if I've ever seen one. Though I wouldn't expect one. Maybe might be the Demon King. And the flowers. Alright. So maybe we're going with like a Mushoku Tensei approach where everything is a little bit technical, right? We're not going into the deep of what a magic system could be, but we have a little bit of intricacy. Wonder if patience is a sore spot here. I mean, she's a human, so she has less of a lifespan, obviously. But she might also... Kids are impatient, and that's just how it is. You're starting something new, and you're frustrated with it not going as fast as you would like it to go, and all that. Alright, old man, just relax. And we have a little montage. Very nice, very nice. I like the atmosphere. It feels very warm. By the way, holy shit, Frieren, what are you doing? This is like the third time. I mean, 2 times was with the mimics, but... And we do see her hair has grown out, so at least probably a couple of months up to a year have passed. 4 years, holy shit, that is one hell of a time jump. Not good. It certainly is, especially considering Himmel has died more than more like 6 or 7 years before that. Maybe I'm underestimating this. I remember episode 1 had something about 20 years, so... She wants him to see the fruits of her efforts. I get that, right? That is a very interesting point. Sorry about stopping the recording for a second, but it kind of proves this point of that the people who influence us the most, the people who have such a high impact on our life, they're never really gone. Their impact reaches far beyond their lifetime, or also far beyond the time they spent with us. And I understand that Hydra tries to honor his friend by living by his example. I think on the former, she wouldn't have to worry, because I think he's proud of her already. And he's glad he saved her. But I do believe that the second one makes a lot of sense. He'd probably be worried about her, and she wants to reassure him that she's gonna be able to take care of herself. You can also kind of sense that Frieren definitely feels things when she hears these stories, when she hears people articulating their own emotions about things. But as we've established, she is very hesitant to express any of it. And I think some of it might... Oh, right. I'm gonna shut up for this. He knew. 𝐏𝐢𝐏𝐿. Meaning forever. I knew it. That was his plan all along. Of course he did. She will experience that loss if she's there or not. But I understand what he means. You don't have to witness it, I guess. Hmm. And now we see her break. Or not break, but we see her true emotions coming through. And you realize that she's been ruminating on this for a while, so... Are we gonna start a discussion about altruism? Or was it just him being selfish? I think it's a bit of both, maybe. Living by 𝐏𝐢𝐏𝐿's example. Yeah, I think losing a loved one is never easy, but it's getting the closure you need, talking to them, being there with them, that can help a lot. As we see, Frieren does have a lot of regrets for not being there for 𝐏𝐢𝐏. And I think that is very independent of what the people themselves think, right? Himmel might have not minded at all that she was going on her journeys. He might have been happy with his life, but for her it's a different story. It feels differently. No, get out there, little one. 26 years. See, we're measuring everything by the death of Himmel, which signifies it as a very important event, not only for the country itself, for the world itself, but also for Frieren herself. But she has a connection to Himmel, I guess. The hell is a Balrog doing here? It's interesting how people don't immediately realize that she was the one in the party. Which would make sense, because in your human-centric world, you don't expect them to look the same when you meet them centuries, well, not centuries, but decades later. Blue moon wheat flowers. Okay, that is interesting. Wait, I need to pause that. Blue moon wheat flower. That might be our flower, and I might have been wrong about the poppies, but we'll see. They grow in his hometown. Another little tidbit about the magic: she can't grow something that she hasn't seen before. Wonder if this is a fictional flower or an actual one. Decades, you say? That's very interesting. Did they die with the hero? Wonder if that's a symbolism or if it has something to do with the way the world works. Like, if this is some magic. Seed rats! Oh my god! Squirrels. Seed rats. I mean, they're not wrong. You're probably right, Frieren, but you're also wrong. You're kind of lying to yourself a little bit, I think. She has these really tranquil moments, which I like a lot. Also, excuse me for a second, I have kind of a... God, I just put more editing work on myself. No. Well, it is what it is. I think this journey will be very good for her because she magic for following tracks, I suppose. Once again, the environments are gorgeous. Well, a hobby can be an obsession as well. Yeah, I think she liked him. To which degree, that's another question, but she liked him a lot, I think. And he made a big impression on her, despite being such a small part of her life. A whole field of them. Yeah, our choices matter. There was something that captured you, that made you choose magic, I suppose. Actually, I'm gonna try and listen a little bit to the sound of the ED, like the lyrics and everything. Unfortunately, I don't have translated lyrics. Maybe I'll see if I can get a screen grab of the lyrics themselves and kind of analyze what they're talking about. Yeah. Another beautiful episode. Yeah. So we know the flower now. I could have saved myself the trouble of researching it. It's blue moon weed. I wonder if this is a real flower or if it's a fictional one. That would be very interesting to know, to be honest. Actually, I'm gonna check that out for a second. Of course, I'm getting meat. I'm getting wheat as a result. Maybe I wrote it wrong. Nope. Maybe blue moon flower. Yes, blue moon flower actually gets me the flower I'm looking for. Let me see. Symbolism. There's a purple one. I don't know if there's a blue one. Popular in Australia and similar Pacific regions. They're associated with nighttime. The meaning seems to be connected, how they can bloom and prosper despite tough, dark times in life. They're supposed to be uplifting. And moonflowers seem to be also connected to love and intimacy. Aside from that, I don't find a lot on a blue moonflower. Maybe it was an inspired mix out of the blue moonflower, which seems to maybe grow in Japan as well. I'm not sure. They seem to grow in Pacific regions at least. Australia, more and more south of the equator, but and of the blue poppies, which obviously supposedly have a lot of meaning that that could be connected to this show. But as I've established, or as we've established before, and as you might very well know, the meaning we interpret into works of fiction might not always necessarily represent the intention of the author, even if it surprisingly fits that intention surprisingly well. So we have the flower, the favorite flower of the hero. I don't want to go through that through the entire thing too long. I think like making my way through the episode is probably not the I would like to record a second one, but I don't think I have the time to do so today, unfortunately. Maybe a little bit later, but definitely not right now, as I do have to go to work in a little bit. But what I can definitely say is that this was an interesting episode. It established our connection between our two main characters, Frieren and Frieren, who is, I do think, the second MC in this case, the one through which Frieren might over time understand herself better, and also the one who reflects from Frieren back to herself and learns her own life lessons from that. this will be our main relationship dynamic. The one of the teacher in the beginning who teaches her a lot about magic and all kinds of things, but also I think Frieren will have a lot that she can indirectly teach to Frieren by just interacting with her and being with her and being her own person, asking her questions that might make Frieren think about things that she herself wouldn't have thought about otherwise. This shot is absolutely hilarious. I don't know what you're doing, old man, but also looks a little bit strange. But let's just not talk about this, okay? Montage of 4 years living together. I do like the atmosphere in which it is drawn. It makes for a very sunny and warm feeling, a warm atmosphere. It seems like they were a little family for a while. They spent their time together. They had fun. They did all the things they wanted to do. She taught Frieren magic. Frieren learned a lot from her. 𝐸𝐦𝐩 kind of took care of them, was there for them, kind of like a like a grandpa, you might say. And then comes the time when 𝐸𝐸𝐩 draws a resume. He says she's been learning a lot and it's been going well and all that. And Frieren says, well, I probably will be finished with that grimoire before she manages to finish what she set out to do, to hit that boulder and gets to that level of magic that she wanted to get at. And you see 𝐸𝐸𝐩 just kind of, I guess, smile to himself a little bit. There's some bitterness in there where he's like, I hope that my plan works out. As we know in later on, he did have that plan, and I suspected that already, because it seemed to me like this whole grimoire thing was kind of an excuse for 𝐸𝐸𝐩 to emotionally rope Frieren into this whole thing and make her attached to Frieren and make sure that Frieren gets to the level she needs to get at to not be a hindrance and be able to take care of herself so she can journey with Frieren. And 𝐸𝐸𝐩 collapses. It happens. This is absolutely normal. We have the fitting the storm, the rain, which represents turmoil in our lives. I'm a very big fan of rain, by the way. It always kind of gets my thoughts going. I don't think the dark omen that many people associate with rain and storms is necessarily always applicable. I do really like to watch nature in action. There's force and power behind it, and something very awe-inspiring. But in this very scene, it's obviously supposed to frame this emotionally turbulent time where you're not sure what's gonna happen, because your friend of a long time just collapsed, and you know he's nearing the end of his life, and he himself sees that as well. So we get to the point where Frieren desperately tries to be able to hit the boulder to get to that level, because she wants to show 𝐸𝐸𝐩 that she can take care of herself, that he doesn't have to worry when he passes away. And you can see 𝐸𝐸𝐩 wants to avoid her having to witness him going, but you can see that she's been dealing with this within her own thoughts for a long time, and she's been processing it, and she is ready to accept it if only in the case that she reaches the things she wants to reach, because she wants to give him peace. And this is what she's desperately trying to do, because he saved her. He stopped her from I mean, in this case, I don't think YouTube likes those words, so I'm gonna just imply. Don't know how I'm gonna handle this in the future. I might just say it at some point and see if there's something that that gets triggered in the algorithm or not. But we do see her backstory. She's lost her family. She's lost probably her town in this particular case. She's looking down at somewhat destroyed region, which is probably going back to the Demon War and all that. Well, I mean, not necessarily though. Considering how old Hyter is, this might have been later on. It might have been human conflict, right? And she lost her parents, and she's become an orphan, and she wanted to end it in this case, and he stopped her. And when we ruminate on why and what's his motivation is for this and why he is doing it, he says that he wants to live, or well, more or less says that he wants to live by the example of his friend Himmel. And now already in episode 2 we do see that Himmel, the hero, is a hero in a sense, is a paladin of good and faith and helping others by just inspiring them to be more like him. Like, his friends are trying to live by his example, honoring his death and his memory by doing that, looking at their life and trying to figure out maybe what they themselves can do better, what flaws they have, and maybe thinking about following his example in some things. And this is what motivated him to take her in, to give her stability in life and maybe lead her on a path that gives her purpose, which we do see she finds that she is a very strong person. She has clearly not healed completely from her scars that she has from a very young age. And when we grow up and we live in turbulent environments and we lose people and we experience pain, then there's scars that are left, insecurities, maybe also dysfunctional ways to deal with something, or anxieties that we do have. But by giving her a stable home and environment, I think Hyter alleviated a lot of that and helped her grow into somebody who can take care of herself, even though she certainly has things to deal with, right? She certainly has emotional baggage. She certainly has her own worries, and she will have to deal with that a big portion of her life. But she showed, well, I mean, maybe not necessarily showed resilience in this way, because resilience is our ability to bounce back in, or to be resistant to bad things happening in our lives, to unstable conditions, to emotional and physical, not physical, emotional pain, mental anguish. But we can see that she has, at this point, a relatively steadfast personality. And through Hyter, and certainly also through Frieren and her teaching her magic and teaching her to take care of herself and maybe experience that that self-efficacy, that ability that she can do things, that she can learn things, that she is capable. And through that, she has grown up rather well. And I think for her, this goal of hitting that rock and being at that level of magic is kind of the thing that symbolizes that milestone for her, that thing that she can go to Hyter to and say, look, I've made it this far. You don't need to worry about me. Yeah, we go through the episode. Very, very beautiful episode, all in all. The animation, the art style, I really like it a lot. We do have the classic ramping up to build power, and we fade into white to leave it to the interpretation of the viewer if she made it, but obviously we know she made it. The sky is clear, the rain has passed, we have reached a turning point, more or less. Not a surprising turning point, more like a conclusion of a little sub-story arc. And she has finished the manuscript and puts it on there and says, well, there was no mention of immortality, no mention of resurrection in there. I can't help you, 𝐸𝐬𝐏, I'm sorry. And 𝐸𝐸𝐏 is like, oh, what a shame. But that is the moment she realizes, and if she knew people better, if she was a little bit more socially skilled in reading people, she would have probably seen through his deception. But that is what characterizes her as a person, what characterizes Frieren, that she has a little bit of trouble to connecting to the viewpoint and to the thinking of others, especially if it's not her own race, especially if it's not an elf who has the same perspective as her on life and its length and and magic, maybe, right? Because her whole thinking is magic focused, and she's very interested in that, in collecting these spells, and we're going to get into why that is a little bit later in the discussion. But this is the moment she realizes that 𝐸𝐸𝐏 has been kind of tricking her, but we do know, and I think it comes across that way. She's a little bit kind of I wouldn't say like maybe ticked off by it. I don't have a better expression for that, but she isn't upset really. She's just like, damn, you tricked me. But it happened, and she doesn't feel bad about it. So she doesn't hold any negative feelings towards 𝐸𝐸𝐏 because of that. And we have the whole thing. We discussed this already. 𝐸𝐸𝐏 wanted her to not witness it, and here we do see that Frieren experiences empathy in this case. She identifies heavily with Frieren in this situation and says, hey, maybe also because that is the way it went for her and 𝐸𝐸𝐏. 𝐸𝐸𝐏 died, and then she came back, experiencing that, right? Well, she went on a journey and she came back. He was very old, and shortly after he died. And she wished he might have said something sooner, and they might have spent more time with each other. And when 𝐸𝐸𝐏 says that, well, take her along with you. You shouldn't stay here for me passing. She kind of feels that frustration and regret, and maybe a tiny bit of anger as well. And communicates that to him, says she should be here for it. She should be here and say her proper goodbyes for her closure, because I didn't get that closure. I only got that afterwards. And I suppose like with 𝐸𝐸𝐏, for Frieren, everything that she experiences here is also in the context of her relationship to 𝐸𝐸𝐏. Especially as 𝐸𝐸𝐏 mentioned that he took Frieren in because he wanted to follow the example of 𝐸𝐸𝐏, and she thought back on how he was and kind of emotionally agreed with that. And we do see they get their time. They get their time to talk it out, to spend time with each other, to properly process this natural event, the course of nature that none of us can avoid. We see them paying their respects and talking to each other a little bit. And then we have another time skip, which I do assume that we're probably gonna have a lot of these. Not as many and as big of a skip, I would say, because now Frieren is Frieren is journeying with Frieren, and since Frieren's lifespan is a lot shorter than that, we do probably see more of their time frame zoomed in this case, and we don't see as many skips, but I'm sure we see a bunch of skips throughout this journey. And they're doing typical adventuring work, right? She's like, well, we're just doing normal stuff. We're helping people do the crops. And getting some spell about how to turn grapes sour and whatever. What are we doing here? And she's like, this is how adventuring works. We do the little things as well, and what we get from that is these spells. And Friend is wondering about the motivations of why Frieren is doing that for spells that are so bizarre and absurd. And she says, well, every spell is interesting, and magic in general is interesting. And she's kind of drawing the separation between herself and Frieren here, and says we're kind of different, and Frieren says, no, we're the same. Which both of them are right. On the one hand, they are the same. They have some kind of special connection to magic that made them decide on why they wanted to do magic, and they stick with magic, and they're passionate about magic. But they are passionate about different things within that spectrum of their hobby or calling, or whatever you want to call it, right? And that is how it works. And no one person is exactly the same, and that's not what people mean if they say we're the same. Yeah, skipping a little bit through it, she finds the statue of 𝐏𝐲𝐿, which is obviously a very close emotional connection to her. This citizen, once again, we do see the impact of 𝐏𝐿 on the general population. We see this old lady who remembers when she was a little girl that the hero 𝐏𝐿 saved her city that was burning, and she remembers that, and that's why she it's very important for her that this statue is kept, and that it's being kept clean and nice, and but she can't take care of it anymore because she's too old to keep up the work. So we hire ourselves a mage, and reminiscence a little bit about how 𝐏𝐿 was when the statue was made. And it's a funny story because yeah, on the one hand, that might be on paper a negative thing, that 𝐏𝐿 is a little bit, or was a little bit very how do you say that, arrogant, or very cocky when it comes to his looks. And but it's also, if it doesn't go too far, it's a very endearing trait for people who are his friends and spend time with him and know that deep down he's also that guy who would save anyone if they were in trouble. So there's this duality. This guy is not just a shining example, a hero, and pure, and nothing's wrong about him. There's nothing wrong about him, but nothing's in any way, because that kind of character would be flat, right? This kind of character would be very one note. You're like, okay, he's a hero, he's a paragon, he's a paladin, he's lawful good, if you want to use like the D&D vernacular. But what we have here is somebody who has a contrast in his personality. On the one hand, he cares a lot about people, he empathizes, he takes care of them, he is the defender of the weak. And on the other hand, he is a little bit vain, a little bit focused on his good looks, and he kind of sometimes can create situations where this is not a positive thing, but it's being tolerated by people around him because they like him. He is a good guy on the inside, and it makes for an interesting anecdote later on, right? It makes for a very rememberable scene. So she looks back on this and is like, well, no, he deserves this. He was always too vain, and so he should have declined the statue. But on the inside, she has warm, positive feelings towards that. And we do find out what the flower is. It's the well, it's a blue moon wheat or blue moon wheat flower, and apparently it grew in Himmel's hometown, and it isn't here anymore. It hasn't been here for decades. Interestingly enough, it's been a couple of decades since Himmel died, and possibly, we don't get the confirmation on this, but possibly since then it hasn't been growing anywhere. So that is a very interesting little tidbit. Either be that on a symbolism level, or be that on an actual magical kind of how the world works level. And we do have that little side story about them spending their time and waiting for it. Frieren says she does it for herself. She wants the spell, or she wants to do it for her self-satisfaction. But we do know that it is also to honor her friend. I do really like this shot. It kind of shows that she's not just this plain person who was like always strict and whatever, but she's actually also kind of a little bit chaotic. And we do have this running gag with her being kind of out of it, either between books or inside a mimic, or like lying outside of the bed in the morning. It's kind of a very visually sound running gag, I think. We do see a lot of beautiful shots on how they spent their time helping the herbalist lady. And then we come to that conclusion. Frieren has a different view on life. She has a different perspective. Her perspective is from a human who has a shorter lifespan. Her perspective is from a very young person who hasn't lived a long time yet. From a person who is very eager to do new things, to learn new things, to make things happen. All right, guess I have to cut that out. That's more editing work for me, but all right. And we do... she's coming from a perspective that is very different from Frieren, which obviously also has very valid points, as the woman does agree with it in their conversation. And she does give her the advice, talk to her, and you guys can talk it out, and then she might be able to understand it, because we do know Frieren doesn't have that immediate understanding of the perspective of other people. But that is kind of the place in the episode where I said I can imagine that it is very important for Frieren to have this journey with Frieren, to start to understand humans and other perspectives in a new way. And she does agree it might have been a little bit too long that she lingered here, and she might have not been thinking about the fact that she's not spending her own time, which is way more vast in quantity, but she's also spending the time of Frieren. And Frieren does lament, I might add, that there's so many people that she could help as a powerful mage that she can't help while she's lingering around here, which is a perspective of somebody who suffered in the past and has been helped, and can see the potential of what you can do with the magic and the power that Frieren possesses, which is a very valid point. I mean, obviously you can't save everyone. That is also a discussion, a perspective we can explore in the future, but yeah. And we do have Frieren kind of answering that their journey will come to an end soon. I don't know if that is kind of an emotional response of her because she kind of feels the interference of Frieren in this particular case, or if this is a thing of her just realizing that she cannot journey with her forever, as she does have to start her own journey at some point eventually. We do also not get a clear-cut answer of when this is gonna be, because she says how long is soon, and then Frieren just says soon. It might be that she's like, okay, I have that in the back of my mind, but I don't know how long it's gonna be. It could be years, it could be a decade, or it could be months, right? That is a very malleable concept in between the two of them. So this is a thing that will have to be cleared up, because Frieren kind of evades the question here in a way. And they follow the squirrel, I don't even know how they called it, the nut rat. Very, very interesting term for that. And we do get to know why this is so important for Frieren, because she has been doing these spells when she was around with her party. We have a dilapidated church here, and she makes a flower field out of it, and they kind of fool around. And Himmel comes up and puts some flowers on her head. I don't know, I forgot how to call that kind of the flower circle, but he puts that on her head, and they have a talk. He tells her about the blue moon wheat flowers and his hometown, and how he'd like to show her that. And that is the first scene where I really got the feeling that she had a very intimate connection with Himmel. And I don't know if that went into possible love territory. I mean, we know it didn't go into actual love territory, but it might have been going into possible love territory. So that is something very interesting to watch out for, because that would give this whole remembrance and mourning thing an entirely new dimension. Now, I don't know if that dimension would cheapen the other aspects of it or enhance it from a narrative level. I have to figure that out for myself. I'm not sure about that yet. But it is definitely something, if added, that would give a whole new meaning to that. And then we have the conclusion of the episode, where we talk with Frieren about the general her motivation for being a magician, for doing magic. And once again, Frieren puts out there the thought that she feels she is different from Frieren, as Frieren puts a lot of attention on learning new spells and all of that. And that she doesn't feel the same kind of, like, she questioned her own passion for magic. But Frieren kind of disagrees with her here and tells her, well, you stuck with it for some reason. I know you say you could have learned any skill, but for some reason you chose magic, and you stuck with it, right? That alone is proof that there's something special about magic, or about your connection to magic, your emotional connection to magic, that kind of differentiated, that lifted it up from all the other things that you could have done. And that is something new for Frieren that she realizes now. And it's very insightful of Frieren, to be honest. Like, unusually insightful into another person's perspective and meaning. But that is what I mean. Like, if we journey with other people, if we spend our time with other people, there's this back and forth, this exchange of ideas, exchange of perspective that we wouldn't get if we would just be by ourselves and not interact with other people. And that is what is, in my opinion, very good for Frieren, but also very good for Frieren and her personal development. And I would absolutely, I'm looking forward to seeing this in the future episodes. And then we ended with honoring the hero, giving him this little tiara of flowers, and creating a field of flowers around him, around the statue, in order to make it stand out more and maybe be maintained longer. Yeah, I mean, that's about it. That's it for episode 2 of Frieren. I don't want to hold you up way too long. A couple of things about what I plan to do with these reactions. Once I am settled into university, because I do have to move due to university, I will probably start another reaction series, which is going to be made in Abyss. If this whole thing goes rather well and people like it, I might put up a Patreon with just some very basic tiers, $3 or in that range, and you let me know if you want that, if you would support me, or you also let me know what I can do better. I'm always trying to improve here. I'm always trying to improve the quality in general, and other than that, I will stick to it. I'm really enjoying watching these videos and kind of analyzing them on a deeper level, because if I would just be sitting here and watching them on my own, I wouldn't analyze them as deeply as I do now. It's a very interesting thing, something that keeps me occupied, and that's a lot of fun for me, even though it is also a lot of work for me. But yeah, I hope I'll see you on the next video. I would record the second one, but unfortunately I have to work now, so you know, real life calls sometimes, and it's just the way it is. Until then, I hope you have a wonderful day or night wherever you live, and I'll see you next time.